life doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the race. You owe your ancestors everything. And you owe your descendants everything. You are just a link in a chain. A tiny one at that. You don't even own 1% of your life. This sense of entitlement that all the men that came before you, all your fathers and your fathers' fathers, all the way back to the first men, that all their struggles, that everything they fought for, everything they strived against, so that life could carry on, life eternal. So that you could be here right now. And you abdicate your duty in this life to continue it on to the next. You coward. You weakling. You don't own this life. It's not yours to waste. It's not yours to throw away on material happiness. It's not And we have the strength to build ourselves up now, build these organizations, build these networks, build these communities, so our sons can be part of a bigger organism, a bigger machine, a machine that's coming, a machine whose time has come, and it's going to destroy the rots and the pus and the parasites. And we have to sharpen that sword. That's our duty. Your life doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the race. You owe your ancestors everything. And you owe your descendants everything. You are just a link in a chain. A tiny one at that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is actually a recorded video. I know I usually do live streams, but things are changing a little bit over here. I've been thinking over the last couple days that you what I want to do as far as like, do you commit to the nationalist cause and go full in and just forget about the possible social, consequences of that, especially, being constantly attacked by the left and stuff like that? Or do I, fold it up and retreat back into the global homo world that I normally live in? And I decided that it's extremely important to me. Probably one of the most important things I've ever done in my life is nationalism, to help get our country back, to bring the nationalists together to help save the European race. All this kind of stuff is extremely important to me. But the downside of that, obviously, is that in the current political environment in most of our countries, in order to be on that side, you kind of have to, or in order to commit, I should say, in order to commit 100%, you kind of have to, earn money and stuff like that different ways without, going through the traditional methods and stuff like that. So what I'm going to start doing is producing, or I guess creating, because I don't know how much producing is involved in this really. I do it all myself. Creating more short, content videos. And obviously I'll still do the live streams that I do, but I'm going to start doing probably a live stream once a week for subscribers only. And I believe the tier to join is $5. So we'll see how that goes. And, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I am going to have a lot more time. So I'm going to try to do as much as I can as far as that goes, because I know that it's kind of quiet right now as far as Canadian nationalism goes, and we need to kind of get that back up. And of course, it's summertime, right? So a lot of people are kind of doing what they should be doing in the summer, which is relaxing. But anyways, like I said, I have more time, so I'm going to start putting out more stuff. And if you want to subscribe, if it's something that you're able to do, then definitely would appreciate it. Obviously, like I said, I'm going to be doing, I have different things like can create t-shirts and so I have all this different stuff that I've just been sitting on that I could be doing. And because I was genuinely kind of confused about, where I wanted to go with this. But I think I've made a decision. So that's where we're at now. And like I said, this is the first video. I'm going to do a 4-part series. And the overarching title, I guess, of the series is like the loss of inner monologue, how we've kind of all, or society, I guess, on a macro level, has lost their inner monologue. And I'm going to explain what that is. If you don't know, I'm sure most of you do. And that's why I actually put that video of Tom at the beginning, because it was when I was listening to that, it was kind of very poignant to me, just because everything it says is true. And it's just, he's so passionate about it. And I think, if people like that can risk it all for what does he get out of it in return? Really, he's just getting I guess just the knowledge, right? That he's doing something meaningful to help save our people. And I figure, the least I can do is commit fully, right? So I wanted to put that in because, like I said, it really did mean a lot. And the guy who created that video, that was a great job. He clipped those things together. That was a great job. So anyways, now that all that stuff is done, we're going to talk, like I said, about our loss of inner monologue. And the first video, this one that I'm doing today, is going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into what I'm calling the silent epidemic, what screen addiction has basically stole from childhood. And obviously this really kind of ramped up during the COVID scam. But as far as the inner monologue goes, what an inner monologue is, it's like the voice you hear when you're thinking in words. So like when you're reading something, so reading this sentence, or reading a sentence rather, you're probably hearing it in your own voice, right? But it's not like actual sound, like no one else can hear it, right? But it feels like you're talking to yourself in your mind, like full sentences, questions, sometimes even arguments, commentary, jokes, stuff like that. For many people, it's almost constant. I'm one of those people. I constantly have an inner monologue going, right? It's, either planning the day, replaying conversations and criticizing them over and over, narrating what I'm doing. Like I will tell myself, okay, this is the next step I need to do. Or again, like I said, even arguing with yourself. I don't do that too much, but I know a lot of people do. It's common. About 30 to 50% nowadays have a prominent inner monologue of the population. That I believe was a lot higher prior to our social media, kind of the evolution of social media. Others, of course, and you know what? Honestly, I think it has a lot to do with IQ as well. And again, that's just my opinion. I don't have a statistic that says that, but I think it does have to do with IQ. I think higher IQ people tend to have a louder inner monologue. Some people have very little or none. They think more in like images, concepts, emotions, or abstract feelings. There's a word for this in psychology or the medical field. It's called anadosphasia. I probably didn't pronounce that right. It's when someone has almost like no inner speech. And I honestly don't know what that would be like to live. Maybe it would be peaceful, but I think it would also be kind of weird. And some people have multiple voices, or their inner monologue changes depending on the mood or the situation. Why does this matter? Okay, this is something because I've been thinking about this and morality and all this stuff, and I think I'm going to do something on morality as well. And I have a couple of my friends that are going to come on, and they have a lot of knowledge into this, so I think I'm going to plan that for soon. But it matters because it helps the person on an individual level. It matters because it helps with self-regulation, planning, problem solving, memory, and your emotional processing. But it becomes harmful when you are an anxious person and you ruminate a lot. And this is also common in OCD, anxiety, and depression. And I also think this has become more common now with the social media, like I said, the evolution of social media. And through the series, we will get to that and why. It's closely tied to working memory and the brain's language areas. So there's an area of the brain called Broca's area, and that's active even during silent inner speech. That's what becomes active when you're actually talking. But for people who have inner monologue, that actually becomes activated even when you're not like verbally making sounds, like talking. Even when your inner voice is talking to yourself, I guess you could say. I've been watching a lot of speeches and different kind of narrations and commentary on how this affects community cohesion, because it really does. Like I do believe that the lack of this in brevity is causing it contributes to the breakdown of community cohesion. And like I said, whether that is due to low IQ or just the increase in use of social media, who knows? But it really does help community cohesion by going back to that self-regulation and moral reasoning. An inner voice allows people to simulate conversations, rehearse social outcomes, and reflect before acting. So it makes you think, like, if I say this, how will they feel about that? This promotes impulse control. Again, we're seeing a very large lack of impulse control among younger people, especially. Empathy and ethical behavior. And this is all key to trust and cooperation in a community. It also gives perspective taking and empathy. People with active inner speech can verbally or mentally rather argue different viewpoints and narrate others' experiences. This supports conflict resolution and reduces misunderstandings in, workplaces, neighborhoods, etc. It also helps with long-term planning and shared values. Inner monologue helps individuals align personal goals with group norms. Societies with reflective citizens tend to have stronger social contracts. And they mean reflective citizens as people who can reflect on their behavior, who are able to have some self-awareness about their behavior and how it affects the community as a whole. And cultural transmission. Much of culture, law, and tradition is transmitted through language. An inner voice makes it easier to internalize and pass on stories, rules, and ideals that bind groups together. And this was, again, very prevalent before the, industrial revolution, but even further than that, the, technological revolution. So we're going to get into this episode. They shouldn't be too long, probably about 20 or so minutes. This one is what the screen addiction has actually stole from childhood. We're going to confront a crisis, quietly undermining the very future of our people and our nation, the theft of childhood by screens. In a healthy society rooted in its heritage, children grow strong through real-world experiences, running outside, learning resilience, learning how to forge bonds with your own kind in the land of their ancestors. Having, falling and having to, scrape your knee, all these kind of things. These are things that you learn through these experiences, right? And you kind of learn a lot about group dynamics through this, or we did. Instead, now, we've surrendered them to glowing rectangles, basically. This is the silent epidemic, what screen addiction has stole from our childhood. Picture the Canada our grandparents knew. I can even picture the Canada I knew, when I was a kid, because it wasn't that long ago. Kids playing street hockey until dark, exploring the parks, the woods, fields, trick-or-treating in a tight-knit neighborhood where everybody kind of shared the same culture and value and everybody knew everybody. They were extended family to a certain degree. That world built strong, self-reliant citizens loyal to their homeland. Today, children are glued to iPads indoors. Real play has been replaced by digital simulation, just as porn has genuinely replaced intimacy and family formation. This isn't neutral progress. It's a profound betrayal of our nation's future. Over 60% of new relationships now begin online, filtering the bonds that should produce the next generation of Canadians through algorithms that care nothing for the cultural continuity or demographic health. Look what happened to people who were on that white date site that was for explicitly for white people or European people to find other European people to date. It was totally canceled. So if you flood them with this kind of stuff, they can control, right? How people are reproducing, how they're getting together, how marriages are occurring to a certain degree. They can do that. If you flood them with screens and mass demographic change, all this shared national identity and these community bonds, they all dissolve. And I think a bigger thing is the statistics on the health outcomes of this screen addiction, especially amongst children. But this is actually from Obesity Medicine, which is Obesity Medicine Association. This is, again, a U.S. organization, but it applies across the Western world. How screen time can impact sleep and childhood weight gain. So there is, children with higher screen times are more likely to engage in mindless overeating and consume junk food promoted in ads, contributing to weight gain. And this article from Obesity Medicine talks about that. They're saying the smartphones, TV, computers have become an integral part. Screen time is new terminology. But from kindergarten to college, students have weaved their lives around these gadgets in the 21st century. Almost 75% of teens have their own smartphones, and 25% admit to being constantly connected to the internet or social media. There is a direct link. This is what I wanted to show you, the direct link between sleep hygiene and obesity. So that is obviously unhealthy, and not being able to sleep properly and sleep hygiene, as they call it, is very unhealthy. Historical data shows that teens watching more than 5 hours of TV a day were up to 5 times more likely to be overweight. And of course, having a TV in the bedroom increases this risk. And it just causes sedentary behavior. From screens, it displaces the physical activity that we would normally do. And high screen teens had very infrequent physical activity, 45.6% versus 32.1%. And obviously, they didn't have very much strength training either. It's also, as I mentioned before, associated with, this is another article that talks about the associations between screen time use and health outcomes among U.S. teenagers. But it's also associated with shorter, later, and poorer quality sleep. In 90% of reviewed studies, blue light suppresses melatonin and content stimulates the brain. We all talk about I got the same article twice. I must have opened the same article twice. This is the children and screen time one, and this is from the Mayo Clinic as well. See, it gives you the things: obesity, irregular sleep, and behavioral problems. Like I said, it's associated with shorter, later, or poorer quality sleep in 90% of reviewed studies. The blue light suppresses melatonin and content stimulates the brain. Poor sleep from screens contribute to fatigue, increased snacking, and higher obesity risk. Chronic sleep issues in early childhood obviously linked to later level obesity. There was a meta-analysis, 117 studies by JAMA, I think it is, or JAMP, I'm not sure what this says here. I can barely read it. It's really blurry. But it found that more screen time is linked to socio-emotional problems, including internalizing anxiety, depression, externalizing aggression or hyperactivity, and it can create a vicious cycle where the problems lead to more screen time use for coping. It also affects mental health as far as depression. High screen teens show depression symptoms and anxiety symptoms compared to lower users. The excessive screen time limits opportunities for in-person play and interaction, which are crucial for developing cooperation, assertion, responsibility, empathy, and self-control. Studies show that children in high screen time groups score significantly lower across these domains. This leads to difficulties reading facial expressions, social cues, and nonverbal signals. As these children age, they may struggle with real-world communication, conflict resolution, and building deep relationships, favoring online interactions that provide instant gratification but less emotional depth. And this is going to be a common theme throughout this series. Now, into adulthood, this elevated risk of persistent depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, is 2 to 3 times higher with addictive patterns and lower life satisfaction. So this is all linked to this stuff into adulthood. This, of course, strains the healthcare system, increases absenteeism, and reduces the productivity. So in conclusion, we're raising softer, disconnected youth who lack the rooted experiences that create a people capable of defending their homeland. Native birth rates suffer when young men and women never learn real courtship or community investment. This weakens our collective strength at the exact moment the globalist policies demand we absorb endless replacement migration instead of encouraging our own families to flourish. Parents and patriots, of course, this is something that's urgent. I think we need to reclaim childhood for our people. And that's why the Tom Sewell speech is at the beginning, because he talks about that we need to reclaim it for our children. We can't just leave it for them to have to fix. Neighborhood games that build trust among those who share our history and soil. This is why we need our neighborhoods. This is why Return to the Land is doing great work. Teach the next generation to love their land by experiencing it directly. A nation that fails to raise strong, rooted children is a nation preparing its own replacement, which we can see now. So let's reverse this course. Let's secure the future of our people. And on that note, I will see you in the next one where we're going to talk about loneliness, isolation, and the collapse of the real communities.